No, this is not a propeller of an airplane, as much as it looks exactly like the propeller of an airplane, and it even appears to be rotating. This is actually carved on the ceiling of an ancient temple in India. And what about this? Have you ever seen this in your dreams? Perhaps not in your deep sleep, but right before you fell asleep. Sometimes this appears when you're in a deep state of yoga nidra, the meditative sleep state. And what about this pattern? Be honest, do you think we can create this with chisels and hammers? Where are all these patterns found? All these carvings are found in the ceiling of an ancient temple known as the Somnathpura temple. Archaeologists estimate that this temple is about 750 years old, but locals claim it is much older. But as you enter into the main chamber, you're going to be distracted by these amazing pillars that look like they were made with machines. In fact, archaeologists accept that they were turned using lathe machines, but offer no further explanation. But these pillars are a mere distraction. The real attraction is above you. Look at this carving. See how complex it is. If you stand exactly below it and look up, it looks like a model of an advanced machine, like the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. It has a strange center line, and around it, there are radiating lines. And you can see circles emerging in a concentric fashion. You can see circle after circle emerging outwards. It's quite extraordinary to think that ancient builders imagined this out of thin air. Did they just imagine it? Or did they have an advanced energy machine and carve a 3D stone model for future generations? What if these circular bands rotated? That would be incredible, right? Do they actually rotate? I will tell you about this in a minute. But look at this particular band here. You see that? Are they gears? They do look like gear wheels, don't they? What if they were rotating gear wheels? There's something even more strange. There are also smaller gear wheels next to them, making the whole carving appear like a complex machine with rotating parts. But it gets even more complex. It is not a 2D carving. Look at it from sideways. The central part projects many inches below. A very fascinating 3D object is attached. And you can see this detail at the very edge. What is that? A strange key-like projection, as though it could be fit onto a female part. Yes, once upon a time, something was fit on this projection and it has been destroyed. What was it? Now, do these ceilings actually rotate? According to locals, there are 3 ceilings which have rotating parts. This is a common story among people in this area. Now, recently I showed you another temple called Tarakeshwara Temple, and there too, people said that the ceiling rotates. However, we're not allowed to touch these ceilings, so there's no way to confirm this, and archaeologists and tour guides maintain that the ceilings do not rotate. Now, let's analyze how they were created. Is it possible to create these insane ceilings with just chisels and hammers? Or were they created using advanced technology? I mean, take a good look at this panel and tell me, do you honestly think they can be created with primitive tools? They must have definitely used some type of rotating mechanisms to create these perfect concentric circles. But how likely is it that ancient builders used rotating mechanisms, right? No, it's not only likely, we have actual evidence that they did use rotating mechanisms. Look at these pillars. Archaeologists sheepishly agree that yes, these pillars can be created only using rotating lathe machines. And archaeologists also accept that these are the original pillars of the temple that were made 750 years ago. So we have crystal clear evidence of ancient machining technology right next to these ceilings. If ancient builders used lathe machines for the pillars, why wouldn't they use the same lathe machines for creating these ceilings? This should be the logical way of thinking, but somehow archaeologists are averse to discuss ancient machining technology because the mainstream will accuse them of pseudoscience or they would lose their reputation. If you still think you can carve them with chisels and hammers, try this. Take a piece of paper and a pencil and try to make a sketch of this. See if you can recreate it. You will definitely find yourself searching for instruments in a geometry set, like a pair of compasses, dividers, and of course, a steel rule. And even after using them, recreating an accurate sketch of this one could take you days. If reproducing it in 2 dimensions is that difficult and needs various instruments, imagine creating a 3D model with a projection in the center, that too on hard stone. So it is quite likely that they were using some type of advanced technology to create these cymatic ceilings. Now, we're thinking about how they were created, but the real question is, why were they created? Why? Again, the mainstream argument is that these carvings have no meaning and were done purely because ancient builders were just bored and were playing with art. But let me show you something that I've just discovered, which proves they do have meanings. If you enter the sanctums in these chambers, you can see these statues. But look above this statue. You see that? This one looks different, right? It has 9 circles in 9 squares. What's the meaning of this? Maybe just a coincidence? Let's go into this chamber. Again, you can see 9 circles. Now, what's the meaning of this, right? Again, mainstream experts will argue there's no meaning to this, just beauty. But no, this is a blueprint of a part of this temple. Each circle here represents a big circular ceiling. For example, this circle represents this ceiling in real life. This circle represents the next ceiling and so on. And you can see these areas, these corners, these represent pillars. Each one is a pillar. And here you can see this protruding part. This is the protruding top part of the column called the capital. This extension is created to bear the load. So we're looking at a top view of the structure. And you can see that all these are beams. And I will show you the detail that really confirms this. You see these smaller circles here carved on the beams? If this is a blueprint of this temple ceiling, we should also see these smaller circles on the beams right next to these larger ceilings, right? You see here and here and here? Yes, all these big circular ceilings also have these smaller circular patterns on the beams. This confirms that these particular ceilings above the statues are not merely there for beauty or decoration. They were miniature blueprints of the actual ceilings. But what about all these ceilings? What do they mean? Is there a real purpose or meaning behind them? There's something about these carvings on the ceiling, even though mainstream experts claim these are meaningless carvings. But in another video on my channel, I've shown you this carving, also found on the ceiling, which is an advanced rhythm wheel. Note that this also looked like a meaningless wheel with just a bunch of random text on it. I showed you a step-by-step deconstruction of how they used this wheel in ancient Indian music. Is it possible that these ceilings in Somnathpura temple also have meanings? If so, is it possible that these carvings are also related to sound? Today, we have made significant progress in a scientific field called cymatics. Now, what is cymatics? Cymatics is the study of the visual representation of sound and vibration. We can actually see sounds, but how do the sounds look? Various sounds and vibrations look like this. This pattern changes according to different vibrations and sounds. But this looks exactly like the ceiling in this temple, right? But it is in fact a particular sound or vibration. Is it possible that these ceilings were visual representations of sounds? Were they visually showing us mantras chanted for healing purposes? What else could be the meaning of these insanely elaborate patterns? And what about the lathe-turned pillars? Why did they have to create these pillars using rotating mechanisms? If they're just used for structural support, why go through the pain of turning them in a lathe machine? Think about it. Even today, putting these giant stone blocks into lathe machines and turning them would be a difficult project. So, why did ancient builders go through the process? For structural strength? No. Even for beauty, they could have easily carved on these pillars and made them beautiful. They don't have to turn them in a lathe. So, why did they do this? Do you remember how we see sound as waves? Like how they go up and down when we speak? This is only a 2D visualization. If we create them in 3 dimensions, they look very similar to these pillars. This is how a 3D sound wave looks, just like the lathe-turned pillars with all these grooves. And there is something crazy about these pillars. Each pillar is different. No 2 pillars are identical in this hall. Is it possible that each pillar represents a particular sound? More importantly, is it possible that each ceiling also represents a particular sound or vibration? I want to show you some more ceiling carvings in this temple, very interesting ones, and how they are related to Nagas, but I've posted this in the members only section. We have a great community called the Deep Dive Community, where we post exclusive content. And some of the carvings I show there is just mind-boggling. So please do click on the join button and watch that video. And you can also watch a lot of other videos I've posted in the members only section. I hope you liked this video. I am PraveenMohan. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.